Michael had come to power in 1972 as a moderate reformist. I remember seeing an interview with Tony Verity and Michael Manley shortly after he won in February 1972. And the interviewer was trying to attach to him a label, a political label, and he rejected that, saying he didn't want to be labeled a socialist or any other kind of ism. But 2 years later, in 74, he moved to the left in a decisive way with the Declaration of Democratic Socialism. But most importantly, the previous year, 1973, Jamaica and much of the non-oil producing countries of the developing world were shocked by the massive increases in the price of oil. We, totally dependent on the fossil fuel, our economy took a massive blow. Our import bill more than doubled in a matter of months. And thereafter, Michael had to rethink what was going to be the strategy going forward. In addition, after he assumed the leadership of the People's National Party in 1969, succeeding his father, the late Norman Manley, and defeating Vivian Blake for the leadership of the PNP in 1969, Michael Manley went on an island-wide tour of Jamaica. And in that tour, I am told by people who ought to know, because they were with him, visibly, emotionally, intellectually moved by the level of poverty in the country, how people were living destitute across the country. And it is felt that that tour, combined with the oil shock of 73, and his own sense of mission, that he had to do something. He had to respond to the hopes and aspirations of the Jamaican people who had so endorsed him in February 72. He set out on this mission to achieve, to realize social justice for the mass of the people. Yes, well-intentioned. But as things turned out, he proceeded on a very, at the time, ambitious social legislation agenda. Because despite the economic boom that Jamaica experienced between the second half of the 1950s up to the turn of the 1970s, with the massive investments in bauxite and agriculture, light industrial activities, the figures will show that inequality was as rampant as they ever were and still are. 2, black people in the country, black Jamaicans, were still largely kept out from certain institutions, such as the banks. You wouldn't find black tellers in the banks. They were largely kept out from owning businesses, access to capital. Yeah? Class, race, prejudice, color were very rampant. Manley, as an intellectual, was very seized by these issues. In addition, he had a sense of mission as a political leader, which, by the way, is very absent today. Very absent. So that was the context that Michael Manley started his push towards democratic socialism in 1974. The social problems in the country, the economic problems brought on by the oil shock of 73, his own sense of what was his mission as Prime Minister. That's where it all started. And I begin there because I see a lot of the commentary not taking into consideration the context. All of us, in our own private capacities or public capacities, are shaped by the times, the values, the culture, the mores of our existence, the vocations we're in, whether it's politics or religion or medicine, social work. We're social beings. And Manley was no different. No different. He was a product of his environment. However, having said that, he had on his shoulders, as a man on the bridge in the early 1970s, the burdens of leadership. Leadership. It was his choice. He could have opted to go to the right. He decided to go to the left. And for that, he must be assessed. He must be assessed. He made those decisions. But in making our conclusions about Michael Manley, we must also take into consideration, as I said, he was a complex man, complex political leader. No debate or argument can be binary, that he's either good or bad. He was far more than that. He couldn't be really pigeonholed. The track record on the economic side of the balance sheet was abysmal. The Jamaican economy declined massively under his watch. Unemployment rose massively under his watch. Jamaica receded to a 1980. The formation of capital and the flight of capital declined under his watch. The coming together, the building of social capital receded under his watch. On the positive side of the balance sheet, ordinary Jamaicans, 10 years after independence, became somebody in their own country. Nettleford Rex, the late UWI professor, coined the term, the Smaditization of Jamaicans. That period paved the way for people like me today to have a place speaking to you from the privilege of around the microphone. We became somebody in our own country. The boy who didn't have a father around, a mother who was employed on Manley's impact program called Crash Program. I would collect the $25 a week and have to make the decisions how it is going to be spent. Because I was considered smart. It was because of his social reform programs why I could make it to high school, to Excelsior, and get an education. Manley's program of eliminating tuition fee right up to university made that possible. But 20, 30 years later, could I truthfully say that he was all good for Jamaica? No. No. He was not, if you're going to be truthful. So after the break, we pick it up.
My hands were steady, my